The officer laughed when the black woman walked into the police station to report a crime. Several people in the lobby heard him. A few even looked up from their phones. And standing near the front desk, Monica Hayes realized this conversation was already going badly. Not because the officer disagreed with her. Because he wasn't listening at all. The laughter lasted only a second. But disrespect doesn't need much time. Sometimes 1 second is enough. Officer Derek Mills leaned back in his chair. Coffee in one hand. A half-finished report sitting on the desk. His expression suggested he'd already made up his mind. Monica wasn't dangerous. Monica wasn't important. And whatever she came to report probably wasn't worth his time. That was his assumption. And assumptions have a way of creating problems. Monica stood calmly. A folder rested beneath her arm. Inside sat pages of notes. Bank statements. Names. Dates. Phone numbers. Weeks of information. She hadn't come to the station on a whim. She came because elderly residents in her community were losing money. Large amounts of money. Retirement savings. Emergency funds. Life savings. And nobody seemed to be paying attention. I'm trying to report fraud. Her voice remained polite. Measured. Professional. The officer glanced toward the folder. Then back toward her. You and half the county. A few people nearby chuckled. Not because the joke was funny. Because people often laugh when authority laughs. Monica ignored it. She had experienced worse. Far worse. The 33-year-old had spent most of her adult life helping people. Listening to problems. Solving crises. Finding resources. Building programs. The work rarely came with recognition. That never bothered her. Recognition wasn't the goal. Results were. For the last 7 years, Monica had managed a community outreach center on the east side of town. The building wasn't large. The budget wasn't impressive. Yet hundreds of families relied on it. Single parents. Veterans. Senior citizens. People facing difficult seasons in life. Monica knew many of them by name. She knew their stories. Their struggles. Their fears. Which was why the recent complaints concerned her. 3 elderly residents had lost money after receiving nearly identical phone calls. Then 5 more. Then 11. The pattern kept growing. Each victim described the same scheme. The same pressure. The same tactics. Monica collected every detail she could. Then organized everything into a report. She believed the police would want to know. Now she wasn't so sure. Officer Mills finally set down his coffee. Let me guess. His tone carried obvious sarcasm. You solved a major criminal conspiracy all by yourself. Several people looked away. The comment felt uncomfortable. Even for them. Monica remained composed. I gathered information from the victims. Aha. And the losses exceed $50,000. That number briefly caught his attention. Briefly. Then the skepticism returned. Did Facebook help with the investigation? A man sitting near the waiting area laughed. Monica heard it. So did everyone else. Still, she didn't react. Years of working with the public had taught her an important lesson. When people want a reaction, refusing to give one often frustrates them more. She simply opened the folder. Then placed several documents on the counter. Bank withdrawal records. Transaction histories. Copies of complaints. Victim statements. Officer Mills glanced at them. Only glanced. Not long enough to read anything. Not long enough to understand. Certainly not long enough to care. Then he pushed the papers back toward her. That annoyed Monica more than the laughter. Not visibly. Internally. Because those papers represented real people. Real victims. Real losses. One elderly woman had nearly emptied her retirement account. Another man lost money intended for medical treatment. These weren't statistics. They were neighbors. The officer shrugged. Sounds like a civil matter. Monica frowned slightly. No, it doesn't. The response arrived before she could stop it. Not rude. Just honest. Officer Mills sat forward. Apparently surprised she'd challenged him. The room grew quieter. People sensed tension. Monica continued. The same individuals are targeting senior citizens throughout the county. A pause. The victims don't know each other. Another pause. The phone numbers match. She pointed toward the documents. The financial transfers match. Then toward another page. The mailing addresses match. For the first time, several people nearby looked interested. Because patterns matter. Even to non-police officers. Derek, however, seemed irritated. Not curious. Irritated. As though evidence itself had become inconvenient. Maybe leave police work to the police. The sentence landed hard. Not because it was loud. Because it was dismissive. Several people in the lobby heard every word. A receptionist lowered her eyes. An older gentleman shook his head. The atmosphere shifted immediately. Monica stared at the officer for a moment. Then looked around the room. She noticed something. People weren't watching because of her. They were watching him. Watching how he treated someone asking for help. Watching whether professionalism would appear. It didn't. Officer Mills leaned back again. Clearly satisfied with himself. Clearly convinced the conversation was over. Monica slowly gathered her documents. One page. Then another. Then another. No anger. No argument. No threats. Just quiet disappointment. The officer smirked. Anything else? Monica placed the final document into the folder. Then met his eyes. For the first time, her voice carried a different weight. Not frustration. Not emotion. Certainty. I hope you're right. The officer laughed again. A short laugh. A careless one. Trust me. He shook his head. I am. Monica studied him for another second. Then nodded. Nothing more. She turned and walked toward the exit. Behind her, normal conversations resumed. Phones rang. Printers hummed. People moved through the lobby. Life continued. But halfway to the door, Monica's phone vibrated. She glanced at the screen. A message. Short. Unexpected. Her expression changed slightly. Not enough for anyone to notice. Except perhaps the receptionist. The message came from someone she hadn't expected to hear from that afternoon. Someone whose office sat inside City Hall. Monica slipped the phone back into her purse. Then walked outside. Because what Officer Derek Mills didn't know, was that before the next morning ended, the mayor himself would learn about the report he had just ignored. And when that happened, everything inside that station would change. When that happened, everything inside that station would change. But not that day. Not yet. For now, Monica Hayes walked out of the police station carrying the same folder she had brought in. The same documents. The same evidence. The same concerns. The only thing that had changed was her confidence in Officer Derek Mills. And that confidence had disappeared completely. The afternoon sun hung low above Main Street. Traffic moved steadily through downtown. Store owners swept sidewalks. Customers drifted between local businesses. Life continued normally. Most people had no idea that dozens of elderly residents across the county were being targeted. And even fewer knew the warning signs had just been ignored. Monica unlocked her car and placed the folder carefully on the passenger seat. For a moment she sat there without starting the engine. Not angry. Disappointed. There was a difference. Anger fades quickly. Disappointment lingers. Especially when people are counting on you. Her phone vibrated again. Another message. This one came from Mrs. Evelyn Parker. 74 years old. Widowed. Kind. The type of woman who baked cookies for neighbors during holidays. Monica opened the message. Her heart sank immediately. The scammers had contacted Evelyn again. This time asking for additional money. Monica closed her eyes briefly. Then started the engine. The community center occupied a modest brick building on the east side of town. Nothing about it looked impressive. No grand entrance. No expensive sign. No special recognition. Yet inside those walls, hundreds of people found help every year. The receptionist smiled the moment Monica entered. You look tired. Monica laughed softly. That's because I am. The receptionist pointed toward a nearby office. 3 more seniors came in. Monica stopped walking. Today. The woman nodded. All the same story. That wasn't good. Not good at all. Monica headed directly toward the conference room. Inside sat 3 elderly residents. 2 women. 1 man. All looking worried. All holding paperwork. All carrying the same expression. Embarrassment. Financial scams create a unique kind of pain. Victims often blame themselves. Even when they shouldn't. Monica spent the next 2 hours listening. Taking notes. Reviewing records. Looking for connections. And the more information she gathered, the worse the situation appeared. The names changed. The amounts changed. The victims changed. Everything else remained identical. Same caller script. Same instructions. Same transfer destinations. Same fake urgency. The pattern had become impossible to ignore. By early evening, Monica had expanded her original report significantly. New victims. New evidence. New documentation. Enough information to justify serious attention from law enforcement. Assuming someone actually looked at it. Across town, Officer Derek Mills had already forgotten about her. Or at least he thought he had. His shift continued normally. Traffic citations. Noise complaints. Routine calls. Nothing remarkable. The woman from earlier barely crossed his mind. Until Officer Rachel Carter approached his desk. Rachel had worked at the department for less than 3 years. Young. Professional. The type of officer who still believed details mattered. She carried a copy of Monica's report. Derek immediately recognized it. You kept that? Rachel nodded. Of course. The officer shrugged. It's nothing. Rachel didn't look convinced. Actually, she looked concerned. I spent some time reading it. That got his attention. Unfortunately not for the right reasons. Derek smirked. And? Rachel opened the folder. Several pages contained highlighted sections. Notes. References. Cross-checks. Real work. The kind Derek hadn't bothered doing. The victims don't know each other. Derek rolled his eyes. We already covered that. Rachel ignored the interruption. The transfer accounts repeat. A page turned. The phone records repeat. Another page. The addresses connected to the mail drops repeat. Derek sighed heavily. As if evidence itself had become annoying. What exactly are you saying? Rachel met his eyes. I think she's right. Silence followed. Not because the statement was dramatic. Because it was logical. And logic is difficult to dismiss. Derek leaned back. The same way he had at the front desk earlier. The same confidence. The same certainty. She's not an investigator. Rachel folded her arms. Neither are scam victims. A pause. But they're still getting robbed. The conversation ended there. At least officially. Derek returned to his paperwork. Rachel returned to her desk. Neither changed the other's opinion. Yet one important thing had happened. Someone inside the department had finally taken Monica seriously. Meanwhile, Monica continued working. Long after normal business hours. Long after most employees went home. The community center grew quiet. Lights switched off one by one. Only her office remained illuminated. Stacks of documents covered the desk. Coffee sat untouched. The clock moved steadily toward 9 o'clock. Still she worked. Because every name represented a person. Every loss represented a family. Every delay created another opportunity for someone to be harmed. Eventually her phone rang. The screen displayed a familiar name. Mayor Thomas Whitaker. Monica answered immediately. Good evening. The mayor sounded tired. But concerned. Monica, I received your email. She glanced toward the report. The expanded version. The one she'd forwarded after leaving the station. Thank you for reading it. A pause followed. Then the mayor asked a question. A serious question. How confident are you? Monica didn't hesitate. Very. Another pause. Longer this time. The mayor trusted data. He trusted evidence. Most importantly, he trusted Monica. Because for nearly 8 years, she had never exaggerated a problem. Not once. What happened at the station? The question surprised her. Monica hesitated. Only briefly. Then told the truth. Not dramatically. Not emotionally. Simply factually. The mayor listened. Said very little. Which usually meant he was thinking. When she finished, silence filled the line. Then came a response she hadn't expected. I'll handle it. Monica sat back in her chair. The mayor continued. Send me everything. I already did. Good. His voice sounded different now. More focused. More determined. Then he added something unexpected. Thank you for paying attention when others didn't. The call ended a few moments later. Across town, Officer Derek Mills locked his patrol vehicle and headed home. Confident. Unconcerned. Certain the matter was behind him. He slept well that night. The mayor did not. Because before sunrise the next morning, he had already scheduled an emergency meeting. And sitting on the agenda, was the report Officer Derek Mills had laughed at. Sitting on the agenda that morning, was the report Officer Derek Mills had laughed at. By 8 o'clock, City Hall was already busy. Staff members moved through corridors carrying folders. Department heads arrived for scheduled meetings. Phones rang continuously. Coffee disappeared almost as quickly as it was poured. For most people, it felt like a normal Friday. For Mayor Thomas Whitaker, it did not. The report Monica Hayes had sent the night before sat open across his desk. Highlighted sections covered multiple pages. Names. Dates. Victims. Financial records. Patterns. The evidence looked disturbingly thorough. Especially for something local police had apparently dismissed. The mayor adjusted his glasses and reread several sections. Then glanced toward another document. A list of known victims. The number had grown again. That bothered him. A lot. Not simply because of the money. Because nearly every victim was elderly. People living on fixed incomes. People unlikely to recover significant losses. People who trusted others too easily. The mayor understood something Officer Derek Mills apparently did not. When vulnerable residents become targets, small problems stop being small. A knock interrupted his thoughts. "Come in." The police chief entered. Chief Robert Langley. 23 years in law enforcement. Respected throughout the county. Practical. Direct. Not easily impressed. The mayor handed him the report. "Read this." Langley spent several minutes reviewing the documents. His expression gradually changed. Curiosity became concern. Concern became frustration. Then he reached the final page. The room grew quiet. "Who put this together?" The mayor leaned back. "Monica Hayes." The chief immediately nodded. As if the answer explained everything. And in many ways, it did. The mayor noticed. "You know her?" A brief laugh escaped the chief. "Everybody knows Monica." The response surprised him. The chief continued. "She helped organize the senior outreach program." A page turned. "She coordinated disaster relief after the flood." Another page. "She runs half the community partnerships in this town." The mayor smiled slightly. "Exactly." The chief closed the report. Then asked the obvious question. "Has anyone followed up?" The mayor's expression answered before words did. "No." That single word carried considerable disappointment. Chief Langley sighed. Because now he understood why he had been called in early. The mayor tapped the report. "Find out what happened." Across town, Officer Derek Mills walked into the police station expecting another routine shift. The previous day barely crossed his mind. Traffic stops. Paperwork. Noise complaints. Normal police work. Nothing more. He grabbed coffee. Greeted a few coworkers. Sat at his desk. And immediately noticed something unusual. People seemed quieter. Not dramatically. Just enough. Conversation stopped when he approached. Several deputies exchanged looks. The atmosphere felt different. He couldn't explain why. Only that something had changed. Officer Rachel Carter noticed his confusion. She almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then she remembered the elderly victims. And the woman he'd mocked in front of an entire lobby. The sympathy disappeared quickly. Around 9:30, Chief Langley arrived. The chief rarely visited the station unexpectedly. That fact alone got everyone's attention. The moment officers noticed him entering the building, conversation stopped completely. A few stood straighter. Others suddenly became very interested in their paperwork. Derek watched the chief walk directly toward the front desk. No greeting. No small talk. No smile. That wasn't encouraging. The chief spoke quietly with the desk sergeant. Then requested several reports. Then requested surveillance footage. Then requested call logs. The questions kept coming. One after another. And every question involved the same subject. The fraud report. Derek slowly lowered his coffee cup. A strange feeling settled into his stomach. Not fear. Not yet. Something closer to unease. The chief reviewed documents for nearly an hour. Nobody interrupted him. Nobody volunteered opinions. The evidence spoke for itself. Eventually he looked up. Where's Officer Mills? The question landed heavily. Several heads turned. Derek stood immediately. Right here, Chief. Langley studied him for a moment. Not angrily. Disappointed. Which somehow felt worse. Walk with me. Those 3 words drained the remaining confidence from the room. The 2 men disappeared into a nearby office. The door closed behind them. Nobody knew exactly what was being said. But everyone had theories. Meanwhile, across town, Monica continued her normal routine. At least she tried. The community center remained busy. Phone calls arrived constantly. Additional victims came forward. Volunteers helped organize records. The fraud investigation seemed to be growing by the hour. Monica focused on helping people. The same thing she'd always done. Because attention never interested her. Results did. Shortly after noon, her phone rang. The caller ID displayed City Hall. She answered. Hello. The mayor sounded unusually cheerful. Monica, could you stop by the station this afternoon? The request caught her off guard. The station? Yes. A brief pause. I think it's time. Monica understood immediately. Not everything. Enough. A few hours later, she parked outside the same police station she had left the previous day. The same building. The same entrance. The same lobby. Yet somehow it felt completely different. People noticed her the moment she walked inside. The receptionist recognized her. So did several deputies. Nobody laughed this time. Nobody smirked. Nobody made jokes. The atmosphere had changed entirely. Monica carried additional documentation under one arm. Updated victim statements. New financial records. More evidence. The investigation was now too large to ignore. She stepped through the front doors. At that exact moment, another entrance opened near the hallway leading to administrative offices. Mayor Thomas Whitaker emerged alongside Chief Langley. Several department supervisors followed behind them. The mayor glanced toward the lobby. Then saw Monica. His face immediately brightened. A genuine smile. The kind reserved for trusted people. Without hesitation, he raised his voice. Monica. Every conversation stopped. Every head turned. Every eye followed the mayor's gaze. The room froze. Completely. Officer Derek Mills stood near the front desk. And suddenly understood that something was terribly wrong. The mayor crossed the lobby. Extended his hand. Then greeted Monica warmly. As if welcoming an important colleague. As if welcoming a trusted advisor. Because that's exactly what she was. And watching the scene unfold. Officer Derek Mills felt the color drain from his face. Officer Derek Mills felt the color drain from his face. For the first time since Monica Hayes walked into the station the day before, he wasn't the most confident person in the room. Not even close. The lobby remained silent. The mayor stood beside Monica. Chief Langley stood nearby. Department supervisors watched carefully. Several deputies exchanged glances. Nobody seemed interested in paperwork anymore. Everyone wanted to understand the same thing. Who exactly was Monica Hayes? Mayor Whitaker answered the question without realizing it. Thank you for coming. His voice carried genuine respect. Not political courtesy. Not public relations. Respect. The kind people earn. Monica smiled politely. You said it was important. It is. The mayor gestured toward a conference room. Let's talk. As they walked away, conversations slowly resumed. But the atmosphere had changed permanently. Especially for Derek. Because suddenly the woman he had dismissed looked very different. Not because of money. Not because of power. Because of how many people trusted her judgment. Inside the conference room, the mayor invited Monica to review the newest evidence. The fraud investigation had expanded dramatically. Additional victims surfaced overnight. Several banks had confirmed suspicious transactions. Phone records connected multiple complaints. Everything pointed toward a coordinated operation. Monica reviewed the documents carefully. The same way she'd reviewed every document before. Methodically. Patiently. Professionally. The chief watched her work. Then smiled slightly. "You're better at this than half my detectives." The compliment made several people laugh. Monica included. "That's probably not something you should admit." Even the chief laughed at that. The tension eased. Only slightly. Outside, Derek remained at his desk. But concentration had become impossible. Every few minutes he glanced toward the conference room. Trying to understand. Trying to remember. Trying to figure out how badly he had misjudged the situation. Officer Rachel Carter eventually approached. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't angry. She simply looked disappointed. "She's the one who built the senior assistance network." Derek looked up. Rachel continued. "She's the reason half those victims knew where to ask for help." The realization landed heavily. Because until that moment, Monica had been an inconvenience in his mind. A nuisance. A citizen creating extra paperwork. Now a different picture emerged. One built on facts. One built on service. One built on years of helping people. The contrast wasn't flattering. Several hours later, investigators executed search warrants connected to the fraud operation. Bank records led to additional evidence. Additional evidence led to arrests. Arrests led to more victims coming forward. The case moved quickly. Much faster than anyone expected. By evening, local news stations had picked up the story. Headlines appeared online. Television reporters gathered outside government offices. The community finally learned what had been happening. More importantly, they learned it had been stopped. A few days later, a town meeting was held at the community center. The room filled quickly. Senior citizens occupied the front rows. Families stood along the walls. Volunteers moved between tables. The atmosphere felt emotional. Relieved. Grateful. One by one, residents shared stories. Some lost hundreds of dollars. Others lost thousands. A few nearly lost everything. Listening to them was difficult. Yet one fact appeared again and again. Monica had been the first person who believed them. Not the banks. Not the police. Monica. A woman in her 70s stood slowly from her chair. Her name was Evelyn Parker. The same woman who had messaged Monica earlier in the story. Her hands trembled slightly. Age had taken some strength. Not her courage. Evelyn looked toward Monica. Then wiped away tears. "I thought everyone would think I was foolish." The room became quiet. The elderly woman continued. "I was embarrassed." A pause. "I was ashamed." Another pause. But Monica listened. Her voice cracked. "She never made me feel stupid." The room remained silent. Not awkwardly. Respectfully. Evelyn crossed the room. Then wrapped her arms around Monica. The embrace lasted only a few seconds. Yet it said more than any speech could. Several people wiped away tears. Including some who rarely cried. Because everyone understood what they were witnessing. Trust. Compassion. Human dignity. The things that actually matter. Near the back of the room stood Officer Derek Mills. He hadn't planned on attending. Yet somehow he found himself there. Listening. Watching. Learning. The stories hurt. Not because he caused the fraud. Because he almost ignored the person trying to stop it. That realization stayed with him. After the meeting ended, residents slowly filtered toward the exits. Chairs emptied. Conversations faded. Eventually only a few people remained. Including Monica. She was stacking folders when Derek approached. The walk felt longer than it should. His confidence from earlier in the week had disappeared entirely. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then he cleared his throat. Monica. She looked up. Not angry. Not cold. Simply attentive. The same way she'd listened to everyone else. Derek lowered his eyes briefly. Something that would have seemed impossible a few days earlier. I owe you an apology. Monica remained silent. Allowing him to continue. I didn't listen. A pause. I made assumptions. Another pause. And I was wrong. The words sounded difficult. Because they were. Real apologies usually are. Monica studied him for a moment. Then nodded. Not dramatically. Not triumphantly. Just honestly. Thank you. That was all. No lecture. No humiliation. No revenge. The simplicity somehow made the apology feel even heavier. The officer looked surprised. Perhaps he expected anger. Perhaps he expected criticism. Instead, Monica offered grace. The same thing she offered everyone else. A week later, the mayor addressed a community gathering celebrating the successful investigation. Residents filled the town square. Local businesses donated food. Families gathered beneath strings of lights. The mood felt lighter than it had in months. The mayor stepped to the microphone. Then looked toward Monica standing near the crowd. A smile crossed his face. The reason I trust Monica Hayes isn't because of a title. The crowd listened. It isn't because of influence. A pause. It isn't because of connections. Another pause. The mayor pointed gently toward her. I trust her because she notices problems long before the rest of us. Silence settled across the square. The good kind. The meaningful kind. Then the mayor finished. She cares when others stop paying attention. The applause arrived immediately. Loud. Sincere. Earned. Monica looked embarrassed. Which only made people clap harder. Because everyone knew the truth. An officer laughed when a black woman reported a crime. What he didn't know was that the entire community already trusted her judgment. But the lesson that changed everything wasn't about status. It wasn't about influence. It wasn't even about being right. It was about listening before it's too late. Because sometimes the most important voice in the room belongs to the person nobody bothered to hear.